All right, it says we are live.
Yep. Green check marks across the board.
Yeah, indeed. So, welcome back to Silicon Scoop, everyone. How you doing today, John?
Doing good. How are you, Craig?
It's another day. It's early in the morning. I'm not
Yeah.
getting enough sleep as always, but that's just the way it goes. And tomorrow's Startup Investor Drinks. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
go ahead.
My ring is telling me I'm only getting between 2 and 6 hours of sleep. And six is rare, but so more between 2 and 4 hours of sleep a night. So I think that's pretty accurate.
Well, I don't know. The sleep things never really worked for me. When I was trying all the stuff, like I said, it would tell me I only slept twice a week. So I was like, they're not quite
Yeah.
working for me. So, I'm just going to clear my voice and let's jump into this.
Let's jump in.
The OpenAI non-profit conversion represents one of the most significant organizational pivots in recent tech history. According to detailed plans, OpenAI intends to split into two distinct entities: a for-profit public benefit corporation and a separate non-profit organization. This restructuring would transform the current governance model where the nonprofit maintains primary control. So we talked about this originally and over time a little bit about their weird half for profit and half not for profit structure, plus some of the legalities going on. What do you think about this, John?
Yeah. This is, well, like, so I didn't know one of the biggest driving forces behind this is the fact that there's an ultimatum from SoftBank that OpenAI must complete this transition by December 2025 to secure their $40 billion full funding. And if they delay that, they could have the investment by 20 billion, which would reduce their valuation. Did you know that before reading this article?
I knew that they had a deadline. I just didn't know it was 40 billion. And I know SoftBank and other investors had put a deadline, but I didn't know there was a $40 billion price tag to that.
Yeah, so that's crazy. So yeah, so the proposed, I think it's a Delaware nonprofit or Delaware Public Benefit Corp. Um, so it grants the nonprofit board special voting rights, which will block hostile takeovers, like, for example, Elon Musk's $97 billion bid. But the one thing that you may not know is that it strips its operational control. So I can see why Musk is upset, because this creates kind of ambiguity about how the mission will be enforced without direct oversight, right? So, and layer on top of that, you've got these whistleblower allegations where employees report NDA stifling criticism and a culture of prioritizing product launches over safety audits, and the disillusion of the super alignment team, which exemplifies kind of this shift, right? So there's a lot of drama at OpenAI around not just directly related to this, but just in general, right?
Well, it seems to be a drama focused company. It was about a year ago, I think, when they fired
Yeah,
fired Sam Altman on a Friday, and he was back in on the Monday
yeah,
after on Saturday being hired by Microsoft and them having a new division all ready to go for him and stuff. And then like the world moves fast and it's a strange place. And I got a lot of investors went into this at the beginning under a certain set of understandings, and
yeah,
those understandings have changed. And though we've had some discussions around this, and we haven't always agreed about, Elon Musk is suing them over this, and other people are. It's because
yeah,
it's not clear as to, we invested you because of this. Now that doesn't look right, and you're like, I believe they need to separate. Completely,
yeah,
here's your one entity and here's the and make it very clear as to what those distinctions are.
yeah,
um because we sit back and we talked about Sam Altman's World, his new everything app that's going to end up
yeah,
going up against Elon Musk and everything else, and say, okay, well, this is started kind of as a not-for-profit, then went for full profit, then it's for half, and now you are using your inside knowledge of these tools and access to it to build this other product and going competing with other investors in your not-for-profit. I mean, there's some conflicts here. That's all I was saying, is that
Yeah.
because of if you were just a for-profit, I wouldn't give a crap. But
Yeah.
because you got all this stuff in there, it's like these need to be clearly divided. And what does safety mean? I always argue that when it comes to AI, because people have different thoughts on this, but it's true. Like, if you're a for-profit, you have different goals than if you're not for profit. And if safety and making sure what you release out there has all the guardrails or whatever from an open source point of view, from a not for profit, great. But that was one of the big concerns, like we talked about when Sam was fired. They said, well, he's moving too fast and we're not keeping to our safety and all. Again, the board got shook up and all the people who were involved in that are gone now from OpenAI. So, but, controversy all surrounding, are we moving too fast and are there safety, and who is controlling that safety? Like, who is the decider and what's safe and what isn't? And all these things are kind of coming to light with the investors.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how this goes. Critics believe that the nonprofit aspect is now a public relations tool, not a genuine safeguard. The California Attorney General is investigating the transparency and legality of the restructuring progress. Sam Altman from OpenAI said, just give us, we'll be done. We'll have a great not-for-profit and restructuring done by December 30th. And obviously they've got some legal goals in mind to make sure that they meet these deadlines the investors have. So, legal experts suggest OpenAI might be violating charitable trust law with this transformation. Financial deadlines imposed by investors may rush the process, risking oversight or safety protocol compromise. And critics argue that the foundational AI principles are being sacrificed for profitability and growth. And that employees view the non-profit model as the core to OpenAI's original ethical commitments. Now, I mean, original ethical commitments, wasn't Google's original ethical commitment do no evil?
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure they've kept up to that. So I mean, I think as companies grow, those things crack a little, but we are going a little bit off the rails. It'll be interesting to see where this goes. I don't think it's going to slow OpenAI down a lot, but rushing it might be a problem. But at the same time, letting this go on for too long is definitely a problem. What are your thoughts on, how quickly do we need to get this done?
I'm always of the proponent, get things done right, but obviously there are timelines and money tied to this. So I still say do things right, but again, I'm not Sam Altman. I have no vested interest in this. And the reason why I say that is because there's so many problems. Like, for example, the former safety researcher, I think his name was Todor or something. He claimed that the leadership used the nonprofit mission as kind of like a smokescreen to attract talent, while pursuing commercial goals. So they're doing things commercially as a nonprofit right now anyway. So I think what they're just trying to do is they're trying to get this for-profit arm so that what they're currently doing can be continued to be done.
I want to interrupt you just for a second. I sort of agree with you up to the point of view. Just because you're not making a profit doesn't mean you're not acting like a for-profit company. Just be clear there. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, not for profit, like they are acting like a for-profit company. They're talking about, hey, what about a $10,000 a month plan? What about this? What about, because their pricing is not right and none of these AI companies are actually being profitable, doesn't mean they're not acting like a for-profit company.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, and the other thing to think about too is that Sam Altman has right now he takes zero salary. Not saying he doesn't make money, but he's got a lot to gain from going from going to a for-profit public company, right? Because he holds he'll have shares, so there'll be some equity there, right? Also, originally investors' returns were limited to 100x their investment, which is crazy, but the transition will remove this cap, which aligns OpenAI with more traditional tech startups. So there's a lot of benefit to Sam and to OpenAI for this move. And the thing is these regulatory constraints and things like that, like and governance and control and all that sort of stuff, like I don't see why that would, like, anything is going to change drastically going by going to this public company. Obviously they're going to be more focused on shareholder returns, but right now they're focused on being the best. So what's the difference?
There is a big difference.
Okay.
I take a step back, and there is a big difference because, as you see, these companies are leapfrogging each other in the market. They, like, one releases something, and all of a sudden everyone else has to rush by a week or two or a month to release stuff. We've seen OpenAI do the same thing. If they were strictly a not-for-profit, they wouldn't do those things. You would release it when you felt it was ready. Your release cycle wouldn't be tied to some sort of marketing
Yeah, but they're
window.
not for profit right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not acting like one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what. Yeah, sorry, you and I are in agreement.
Yes, I think we are. It's just
Yeah.
so they have to make up their mind, and this is people invested. They've attracted talent. They have tax potential implications around being a not-for-profit, but in order for them to really scale and grow, they need to probably be a for-profit.
Yeah,
So, they have to decide what is it. And I don't know what a splitting the company in two would look like.
yeah,
Does that mean the core not-profit sticks to the core OpenAI tools and shares that with everybody for free? Because, we don't get that for free, do we? So then what does it mean? What does the other team do? Take those tools and make them into more advanced tools that they sell and do stuff with. And, Altman's building, they're building a fab, a chip manufacturing company. So what is it? And I think it needs to be clear, and I don't think it is. Even in these articles, it's not clear what that split up would look like, and where the rules are going to change for them. So I think they are in a little bit of hot water. They have these deadlines. They really need to figure it out and get to a point that satisfies the investors and government and whatever. If they say, you know what, screw this, we're going to go full for profit, and we're going to roll all your investments into, stock, whatever of this, by removing this and remove that. And all of a sudden they can do right by the investors, turn it into for profit, and just deal with the non-profit stuff, whatever that means, legally converting it,
whatever that
paying the
means.
fees.
See, I think the disconnect for me is I'm not fully understanding the restrictions being a nonprofit versus a for-profit. I didn't do a deep dive into that. So because to me right now what they're doing, there's no difference, right? So I think that there's got to be some things that I'm just missing on, right?
Well, yeah, and for a nonprofit's goal is not growth, and they don't necessarily have to be the leader in a specific field. Their goals are usually more human related. We want to be safe. We want to be this. If we decide to say we're going to OpenAI is a nonprofit from here on in, And what we're going to do is we're going to open source all our stuff to American companies. And we're going to have a support team and do like a, what was that Linux a Red Hat style model.
Yeah.
Where the for-profit provides services and whatnot and support and whatever, and the not-profit builds the core of the product. You could definitely see some things going on there. It's just hard. How do you extract these things? So the company needs to make some decisions. They are definitely a leader. I think they're going to come out of this okay. You know, the OpenAI is currently a $300 billion for-profit company governed by a non-profit board.
Yeah.
So something's got to give, right?
Yeah.
And well, interesting to see what happens. They've got the deadlines by the end of the year, but I think people are going to want to know more before that. So we're going to hear more news as this comes forward. But we're curious to hear what you think. Do you think OpenAI is done for? You think this is a change for the future? Do you think they're going to end up being two separate entities, or just a non-profit, or just a for-profit? Let us know. I would love to hear your comments. So we've been back and forth on this a little bit. I won't say back and forth, but we've discussed it a little bit. And the tech world and financial markets have been closely watching the antitrust case against Google, which centers on accusations that the company has leveraged its dominant position to stifle competition in online advertising. The term Google illegal ad monopoly refers specifically to practices where Google allegedly used its market power in search browsers and mobile operating systems to maintain control over the digital ad ecosystem. So on April 17th, the Department of Justice secured a significant victory when a federal court ruled that the Google had violated antitrust laws by abusing its search engine monopoly. The court found that Google engaged in anti-competitive tying practices where it conditioned access to certain products on the use of other products and utilized exclusive agreements to maintain its dominance. This landmark ruling marked a turning point in the government's efforts to rein in big tech's market power. So this is great. You know, what do you think is going to happen here, John?
Yeah, so this is the second blow to Google on top of their search monopoly. So now they have ad monopoly on top of that. So so there's two things that they found illegally monopolized in two critical ad tech markets. So, and this is from Judge Brinkema. One was the published ad servers, which are tools for managing ad inventory, and ad exchanges, so platforms for buying and selling ads. So by tying its ad server, which is DoubleClick for publishers, and Exchange, which is ADX, they're saying that Google created a closed ecosystem that stifled competition. So they found that Google forced publishers to use AdX by integrating it with DFP, which blocked rival exchanges. They manipulated auction dynamics to favor its own tools. So what they did apparently was inflate ad costs by 15 to 40% for advertisers, while reducing publisher revenue by 30 to 50%. And the third thing they did was they suppressed header bidding, so an alternative auction method. So they imposed this dynamic allocation policy that prioritized AdX. So you like the Sherman Act. So, well, you've brought it up a couple of times. So the judge ruled that they violated two sections of the Sherman Act. Section 1, by unlawfully tying DFP to AdX, they deprived rivals like Index Exchange and PubMatic of market access. And Section 2, they willfully acquired maintenance of monopoly power via exclusionary contracts and product bundling. So, and the court dismissed claims about Google's dominance in advertiser ad networks due to competition from Meta and Amazon. But Google's saying that their tools are simple and affordable and effective, and that's why publishers freely choose to use them. And they claim that any remedies would stifle innovation and harm small business. Sound familiar?
Yeah, that they all claim they're the victim at some point.
Yeah.
Alphabet's ad tech business earns $31 billion a year. So it's now at risk versus this restructuring, and proposed remedies include breaking up Chrome and Android into separate companies. And Alphabet stock fell 1.4% immediately after the antitrust decision was announced. And we're seeing my old boss used to say there's good fishing in troubled waters. And so we see the sharks are circling and saying, hey, I'll buy Chrome. Like OpenAI, we just talked about, says, hey, if you're going to break that up, we'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah. And another article that I didn't share with you, but I just read this morning, is that Google pays Samsung an exorbitant amount for them to preload Gemini onto their phones.
Yeah. So this is I didn't know about the Gemini thing.
Yeah, this is new. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. I was going to say, I know, but they pay in order to put
for
the search engine. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like we're saying, it's like a $20 billion a year contract, or $20 billion contract with Apple. Sorry.
Yeah.
And we got this. So they're paying huge amounts of money to put this stuff on. But the question becomes, that agreed is a moat. No one else can be able to bridge that, or only a couple of companies could, to pay that amount of money to get Samsung to put their product on instead.
Yeah.
And Samsung is also another huge conglomerate, so they're not necessarily the best example. But I don't know how anti-competitive it is when they have to pay so much money to get their products included in all these things.
Yeah. You know what? I have to say, though, Samsung seems like this big conglomerate because we're North America, but like I'm a huge geek and I love cell phones and tech, right? The technology that's coming out of China, like Xiaomi, what's the other one? Oppo, and there's another one. Their phones are way better than Samsung's phones. It's just we can't get them here in North America. It's like, so it's crazy. Just sorry, I digress a little bit, but
we have some, all sorts of import exports constraints, network constraints, all sorts of other stuff that, both good and bad. From hey, what about signals? You can only be so strong, otherwise you got to go through FTC or whoever. So there are some rules, both good and bad, that prevent that kind of stuff. But it's the same. Like if you go to the US, they have different food than we do, and different this and different that. It's because of different companies, and some of it's better and some of it's worse. But yeah, if you go to other places, the technology locally is different. And it's interesting to see that you're saying that Samsung, you're say in China, has way better offerings.
Way better tech. Their phones are slimmer, batteries are bigger. Like they're just yeah. So they came out with a trifold phone before Samsung, and their trifold phone is thinner than Samsung's Fold.
So did anyone, before we get back to this, did anyone suggest why it's different there? Is it anything to do with, for example, the EU standards that say everything has to be USB-C, everything has to be this way, everything has to be that way?
No, it's USB-C. Now I do know, like I could order one if I wanted to, but the problem is the frequencies that they use for their 5G versus the frequencies here. That's the only major difference that I've seen.
So yeah, it depends on
like IP rating. It uses USB-C. Yeah.
It depends on, I guess, like if they're using the Snapdragon chipset.
They're using Snapdragon. Yeah.
All
the same specs.
That's the processor, but there's
the modem,
the Qualcomm for the modem, or whatever it is. Yeah,
Qualcomm for the modem. It's just the frequencies are different.
They're all different
as far as the powers.
Yeah. They're all different. It's just like NTSC versus the European PAL, as an example.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyways.
And here, like, we have GSM versus CDMA, and now we're kind of all moving to almost all compatibility. But yes, the networks offer different types that they all don't necessarily connect to. So they disagree with the court's decision.
Yeah.
So looks like they're going to have to do something, and they've proposed some other things, but I don't think the court is going to like it. So do you think they're going to be selling off both Android and Chrome? Do you think they're going to come up with some other offer? What do you think is going to happen?
I doubt it. And so here's what I think. I think they're pivoting to their AI tools, and so they may have less dependency on Chrome integration and search, so that these rulings might have less of an impact once they have to actually do something about it. That's what I think, just because of this new article that I saw about Google and Samsung and Gemini. But I could be wrong. What do you think about that?
Well, it seems like antitrust regulation is definitely becoming a key driver of market change in the tech ecosystem, as we're starting to, they're starting to bring the hammer down on some of these companies, that it's changing behavior.
Yeah.
But, the same things that Sam Altman is getting in trouble for are the same things that YC preach to all their startups. So is it really changing, or, are we just at a higher level of change? As companies get bigger and bigger, they naturally have to change. But earlier on, until they're forced to, they're not going to.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. And they're never going to change unless they're forced to. Just like, for example, the ruling from 1990, when the DOJ ruled that bundling IE with Windows was deemed illegal. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. So this isn't anything new, by the way, but there was sort of like a lull in these, and it seems like in the last few years, there's really been some teeth from the DOJ in this, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the news here is obviously this happened just a couple of days ago, that they finally said, no, you violated our rules here. We're, you're going to have to do something. It's just a question of what is the sentence for this, and are they going to mandate it specifically, or are they going to give Google a chance to come up with another option?
Who knows?
I guess time will tell. We've been following this, like I said, and now they've made a ruling, so we'll have to see how long it takes before they come back, what the next step is. But we'll be on top of it and let you know. But that means I do see changes in the future for both Android and Chrome and access to those. So we'll have to see where that goes. Let us know your thoughts. Are you going to be changing the browsers you use as a result of this? Does it matter who runs and controls Android or Chrome to you? Let us know.
Yeah.
All right. Motion sickness affects millions of people worldwide and occurs when there's a mismatch between what your eyes see and what your inner ear senses about your body's movement. So common symptoms include nausea and vomiting, dizziness and lightheaded, cold sweats, increased salivation, and general discomfort and malaise. And I get this when I'm in the car, and if I'm trying to read or do work after a certain period of time, it starts to bug me. And, millions of people are affected with this. And now apparently there might be a solution, which is this 100 hertz sound. What's going on here, John?
Yeah, this is cool, but also kind of scary, because I don't know if you remember the sound waves or waves that were potentially affecting people in Cuba. But this is cool. So this is research led by Nagoya University. So what they did was they identified a pure tone at 100 hertz as a non-invasive, drug-free intervention for motion sickness. So what they did was they started out with an ex vivo experiment using mouse explants, and they screened frequencies between 90 to 1,000 hertz and sound pressure levels from 65 to 85 dB. So the 100 hertz frequency at 80 to 85 dB was found optimally activate vestibular function, specifically targeting these organs that are responsible for sensing linear acceleration and gravity in the body. So in the animal models, what they found was a 5-minute exposure to this tone produced almost a 2-hour reduction in motion-induced imbalance. And they measured it by beam balance performance after induced shaking. So human trials, what they did, involved a 1-minute exposure to the same tone, followed by motion sickness induction. And they found that it was reduced, but obviously they have to do more research on that. But this is cool because essentially what you could do is you could just throw on headphones at 100 hertz and go out to sea, or I think this, I don't know if this helps with seasickness. It probably does, but or just read in the car, because I know I have a hard time reading when I'm sitting in the back. So yeah, what do you think?
Same thing. I'm excited. This is really cool technology. I've had kids who've had experience this, and being able to potentially just have headphones and listen to this 100 hertz sound to make the nausea pass would be fantastic, or before a ride or what have you. Especially since it's a drug-free method. You're not having to take Imodium or it's not Imodium for motion
Gravel?
sickness. Thank you,
No.
Gravel. Imodium helps a different type of problem. So at the heart of the motion sickness is the vestibular system, a complex network located in your inner ear that's responsible for some sense of balance and spatial orientation. The system consists of semicircular canals, which detect rotational movements, and otolithic organs, utericle and saccule, which sense linear acceleration and gravity. When you're in motion, these structures send signals to your brain about your position and movement in space. When these signals contradict what your eyes see, your brains get confused, triggering motion sickness. So when your brain's telling you you're in the car that's braking and moving, and you're reading a book that's still, it doesn't work. And that's when you start to feel sickness. And this sound therapy apparently works. The 100 hertz sound therapy targets the system directly through the inner ear stimulation. And unlike medications that simply dull your symptoms, this approach works with your body's natural balance mechanisms. Specific frequency of 100 hertz appears to stimulate the otolithic organs in a way that enhances their functions. In doing so, it helps realign your vestibular system signals with other sensory inputs, effectively reducing nausea and dizziness. So the sound approach represents a great non-invasive drug-free method that could transform how we handle motion sickness by addressing the root cause rather than merely masking its symptoms.
Yeah, so this is cool. They could implement this into like our actual entertainment systems in the car and the speakers. But unfortunately, like we can hear 100 hertz, so you can't have it playing all the time. But they said 5 minutes gives you 2 hours of of relief. So this is cool. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the one thing I'm excited to see, because I've been getting a lot of these TikToks on sound waves and different things like that. So I'm curious to see what other things sound waves could help to cure. That's what I'm excited to see going forward.
Well, there are some beliefs that, we are all vibrating at all different frequencies. Yes. So it's not just sound waves, it's the vibrational waves that can do all sorts of stuff. And the scientists at Nagaoka University Graduate School of Medicine have made a remarkable discovery that, what they're calling this is sound spice, this 100 hertz pure tone. And using it for just 1 minute significantly reduces motion sickness symptoms. So, being able to, like you say, just play it for a minute dramatically reduces it. So, playing it for a minute every 30 minutes or so would probably just be fine. Good to get people going. And you can play it in the car, great. But if you only had one person suffering from this, they could do it in their headphones, I guess.
Yeah.
Because again, you're targeting the specific organs in your ear. You don't necessarily have to have the tone affect your whole body.
Exactly. Yeah.
So participants reported reduced nausea, dizziness, and lightheaded. It proves effective against multiple motion types, including simulators, vehicles, and swinging motions. The initial studies on mice to identify the optimal frequency was included, then human trials and tests involving swinging motions and in-vehicle scenarios. postural control assessments via specialized posturography. I guess that's photography related to posture.
Okay.
And physiological monitoring through ECG and a vestibular function test. So they did some really interesting testing, not just throw some sounds at people and say, what do you think? How you
Yeah.
feeling?
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in this. We're going to obviously start to see headphones, start to see YouTube videos, whatever, depending on what headphones, if headphones can normally play this 100 hertz or not through normal speakers. We're going to see things specifically designed to do this. And when you talk about seasickness, there are maritime implications listed, like
Okay.
automotive industry integration into vehicle entertainment systems,
Yeah.
development of specialized headrest speakers that deliver 100 hertz tone, or maybe mobile apps synced to navigation systems to activate therapy before challenging road sections. Aviation pre-flight therapy options for at boarding gates or in pre-flight lounges, integration into in-flight entertainment systems, or specialized headphones for passengers prone to air sickness. Implementation on cruise ships and ferries.
Yeah.
For portable device for recreational boaters, integration into safety briefings on vessels. So there's a broader impact on all of this, but it sounds like we could really change people's enjoyment of car rides, boat rides, cruises with just a minute tone.
Yeah, exactly. That would be awesome. It'd be a game changer for people, for anyone with motion sickness. Yeah.
So let us know what you think, because of the non-pharmaceutical nature, children can use it, but with any therapy for children, it's recommended you talk to your pediatrician first, especially very young children. But it seems like it works for old and young. Let us know what you think. If you have motion sickness, is this something you're going to be trying? And we'd love to hear your feedback, whether it works or not. And or do you think there's something else in the horizon that's going to prevent motion sickness that's a better solution? We'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah.
Well, this one's interesting.
Yeah.
The Big Bang Theory stands as the predominant cosmological model explaining how our universe began and evolved. According to this theory, approximately 13.8 billion years ago, the universe emerged from an extraordinary hot, dense singularity. In just fractions of a second, this pinpoint of infinite destiny expanded rapidly, initiating the creation of all matter, space, and time as we understand them today. So for decades, scientists have considered the Big Bang as the absolute starting point of everything in our universe. The theory explains the observed cosmic microwave background radiation, the abundance of light elements like hydrogen and helium, and the expansion of the universe that continues today. However, recent research challenges whether the Big Bang truly means Recent research challenges whether the Big Bang truly marks the beginning of all cosmic processes. The paradigm shift forces scientists to consider the origin of life, the universe, in more complex terms than previous thought. What's going on here, John?
Yeah. So first off, wasn't able to do a huge deep dive. I did read the article, but there's a lot of concepts here that I'll try to dive into, but just let's talk about the high level. So there is a proposition by University of Texas Austin, using the Wi-Fi model, which is warm inflation via freeze-in. And just to kind of give you like a first principles explanation of that. So warm inflation, which means unlike traditional cold inflation models where the universe supercools during rapid expansion, warm inflation maintains a thermal bath via dissipative interactions between the inflation field, which is driving expansion, and other quantum fields. So we're talking quantum again. So this bath persists throughout inflation, and it's sustained by energy transfer from the inflation. The other part of the Wi-Fi is freeze-in mechanism. So it's a non-thermal process where dark matter particles are slowly produced via interactions with the thermal bath, but never reach equilibrium. So production occurs through high energy interactions, which are often mediated by non-renormalizable operators. So like a dimension 5 or higher, okay? So I know that doesn't really explain it, but just to kind of, for those of you that do understand it a little bit. So the Wi-Fi model states that the dark matter formed during cosmic inflation, which is a period of exponential expansion before the Big Bang. So unlike traditional models where inflation erases pre-existing matter, the Wi-Fi mechanism leverages warm inflation, a scenario where radiation is continuously produced during expansion, creating that thermal bath, which we talked about. So in this bath, the interactions between the inflation field and radiation generate dark matter particles via the ultraviolet freezing. So there's a lot to unpack here. This Wi-Fi model does represent a huge shift in cosmology. It suggests that dark matter is a relic from a pre-bang epoch. I don't know how to pronounce that. What? Do you understand any of what I said, Craig? Because I kind of do it, I kind of don't.
Yeah, like at a base level, dark matter formation predates the conventional Big Bang timeline. So
Yeah.
dark matter existed before. Currently, it's saying that dark matter was created, at least at some level, just before the Big Bang. So, as part of the process of this warm inflation via freeze in process. So, I don't 100% understand it because I don't 100% understand the collapse or expansion of the universe as it exists. However, the fact that this dark matter, which makes up most of our universe, predates the Big Bang, means that something else is happening that we didn't really understand.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially what they're saying, if I can just put it into a summary, is if this is true, then the Big Bang becomes more of a transitional phase rather than a true beginning, right? So they're saying the Big Bang isn't the start of everything. It's a transitional phase, which is interesting. Which I don't have a degree in quantum or physics or cosmology to state whether or not this is true or not, or whether or not there's grounds on this. But based on just reading this and the theory alone, I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. I'm curious to see what further research comes from this to either. So there was just I did find some other articles. There was an article from phys.org. It confirms that Wi-Fi is model reliant. Okay. So there are some other articles that kind of have set the ground for this. But this is the first time I'm reading of it. So this is interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, you have the motion sickness article up.
Oh. I've been scrolling through this one, sorry, and highlighting different stuff here.
Okay.
All right, thanks for pointing that out. Cosmic inflation occurred at 10 to the power of minus 32 seconds, expanding space faster than light and increasing volume drastically. So this is, the Big Bang. Dark matter doesn't interact with light, making it invisible and detectable only through gravitational effects. And traditional cosmology assumes that all matter, including dark matter, formed after the Big Bang's cooling phase. And now this suggests that the freeze-in interactions during warm inflation could produce dark matter particles outside thermal equilibrium, so before. So the model suggests inconsistencies in the galaxy's formation, timing, and dark matter's gravitational role. Early dark matter presence provided scaffolding for galaxies, accelerating the structure formation post-Big Bang. So dual origin dark Big Bang theory posits separate creation events for dark and ordinary matter, which might suggest that a dark Big Bang happened just before a non-dark Big Bang. I guess we can't say light Big Bang. I just doesn't.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of stuff here that is very interesting. Primordial dark matter would seed gravitational wells, guiding matter into galaxies and clusters. Like the concepts of what's happening here is potentially amazing. That if the dark Big Bang happened first, it would seed the galaxy gravitationally, and then when the other Big Bang happened, it sucked the things to the right locations, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Dark matter's invisibility at massive presence demands a new formation timeline to explain its role, and we really still don't understand dark matter, which makes up most of the universe.
Yeah. I wonder what Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks of this.
That's a good question. I'm not a big fan of him and how he explains his theories and things, but other people are. So
yeah, I like him. Yeah, I like how he explains it. He gets excited. That's what I like. It excites me. So.
And that's fair. I mean, anything that gets you excited to learn is a good thing. So I'll give him credit where credit is due. So let us know what you think about this dark matter existing Big Bang, and what the relationship suggests with the Big Bang, and that the Big Bang may not represent the absolute beginning of all cosmic processes. In fact, I've heard, the theories that the Big Bang started our universe, but it wasn't the first Big Bang, and the universe is cyclical. It expands until it collapses in on itself to another singularity, and then it blows up again. And how many trillions or billions or whatever years that is, I don't know. I'll never be around, and I don't know, but maybe we'll start to see that more information come out now that we are starting to understand that the origins of the universe weren't what we think it is, and are taking a look at what dark matter means to our universe.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we probably got time for just one more, John. Which one do you want to do?
Doesn't matter. You pick. Dealer's choice.
Let's do the microplastics one, because it's they're all interesting, but recent scientific investigations have revealed troubling trends in microplastic accumulation with human tissues. Between 2016 and 2024, microplastic concentrations in human brains rose approximately 50%. With 2024 brain tissue samples showing alarming high contamination levels. This rapid increase points to an accelerating environmental plastic pollution making its own way into our bodies. What's going on here, John?
This is nuts. This is scary. So also, I don't know if we're going to talk about it in this, but they're also finding microplastics in our rain now. So we don't have to worry about acid rain. We got to worry about plastic rain. So there's a study that they did that they revealed that our brains contain microplastics at 0.5% by weight. So what does that mean? That's equivalent to a disposable spoon, or 7 grams, or 5 plastic bottle caps in our freaking brains, which is scary. So they analyzed, they did autopsies, they analyzed the frontal cortex, and they detected 4,800 micrograms of microplastics per gram of brain tissue. So, and the type of plastic is polyethylene, which is commonly used in packaging. So there were smaller nanoplastics that were more prevalent in the brain, while larger particles accumulated in the liver and kidneys. So this is crazy because microplastic levels in humans reflect our exponential environmental contamination. So global plastic production in 2023 was 460 million metric tons. That's crazy. So I don't know what this means as far as like, what is it causing in the brain? Did you see anything on kind of like what are the effects it's having on people's brain at all? I didn't see anything.
No, brain tissue contamination with plastics is now among the most disturbing health pollution revelations. Even low-level plastic ingestion may lead to chronic inflammation and immune system challenges. Plastic particles may act as carriers for additional environmental toxins in the human body. Spectroscopic detection allows polymer-specific identification of microplastic types in human tissues. Microplastic contamination is now being viewed as a planetary boundary breach with direct human health costs. So I didn't see specifically, but obviously those are some major concerns.
Yeah. So what it found was that like the causation kind of remains unproven, but not only microplastics, but PFAS are being found in us. So like there's some crazy, scary stuff that's happening because of years and years and years of unregulated, like essentially production of these PFAS. And so for those of you that don't know, those are forever chemicals, PFAS. And they're used in a whole bunch of different things. They're actually used in your clothes too, to make your clothes feel softer. So there's a lot of health implications which are scary here. I'm scared to know when they do their next study, maybe 3 or even a year from now, how much more microplastic they're going to find, because they're finding microplastics in rain now too, right?
Yeah, you mentioned that. I'm not 100% sure what that
could be wrong
means,
though. That doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, if it's in the water, why wouldn't it make sense that it's in the rain?
True. Yes. So microplastics are being found in rainwater around the world, even in remote locations. So typically 1 micrometer and anyways. Sorry, I just did a quick Google search, but so yeah, it's found in our rainwater.
So filtering drinking water can reduce microplastic ingestion from municipal or bottled water sources, but like usually those filtration systems, unless you're on the tap, they're using plastic components. So I'm starting to wonder, really how much that helps,
Exactly. Yeah.
We did talk about there are some startups trying to get rid of PFAS. We talked about that a couple of months ago. So that's a good thing. But we don't know the long-term effects of this. And plastic is a byproduct of petroleum, and we're a petroleum-based society. And, we've been more and more plastics. However, I feel like since 2016 and 2024, a few things have happened, but we reduced plastic bag usage completely. Like where everyone's using not paper bags anymore. What do you call it? Cloth bags now? Sorry.
Yeah, bags that last even longer, and people are just using them one time.
Well, I mean, we use them and whatever, but that's not really the point. Is that they attack plastic bags, and then, but what do you put in the plastic bags? 1,000 things in plastic, and like it seems like you're not really hitting the source. And then you go places, you're not allowed to have glass on the beach. You're not to have this. So what is the alternative to plastic that's not glass?
Exactly. There was one thing that I saw that was really cool. I don't know if this would help with other things, but they were using cornstarch for straws. So I thought that was great. It hasn't taken off, but yeah.
So I think everybody needs to take some personal responsibility as much as they can for this, because no one, maybe you do. When I say no one, I believe no one wants accumulated microplastic garbage in their brain. So choose reusable alternatives, replace single-use plastic items with durable alternatives made from glass or stainless steel or food-grade silicone. Avoid microwaving in plastic. Heat can accelerate the leaching chemicals from plastic containers in food. Use ceramic or glass containers instead. Use microfiber catching laundry devices. These can trap synthetic fibers that shed from clothing during washing. filtered drinking water, which we mentioned, reducing plastic food packaging, purchase loose products and bulk items as where possible, and choose natural fiber clothing. Synthetic fibers like polyesters shed microfibers during washing and wearing, and natural fibers like cotton, wool, and linen are better alternatives. And the other thing is, don't use those micro. They have them in shampoos and stuff, and I think they've gotten rid of it. But they had those
Yeah, they have
micro.
now. The
Yeah,
scrubbing,
yeah.
the scrubbing. Yeah.
So these
Yeah,
were
whenever
all
I
part
think
of it, right?
microplastic, that's what I always think of. So
Yeah, so the presence of microplastics in human brain tissues represents one of the most concerning developments in our understanding of microplastics' health impacts. The research reviewed in this article paints a troubling picture, rising contamination levels, and potential links to serious neurological conditions. The widespread bioaccumulation throughout human tissues is very concerning. We'd love to know what you think. Are you going to start cutting plastics out of your life, or start looking for alternatives, or are you just going to let your brain become one plastic and we're all going to become Barbie and Ken dolls in the future? Let us know. Love to hear your thoughts. So what do you got going on, John?
I'm guessing this will come out around futurist consensus. So
Yeah.
I got my ticket. Thanks to a friend of mine. I don't know if I can shout her out. So, but thanks to her, I got a ticket. To consensus, I got my ticket to futurist. After party is going to be great for startup drinks. What about you, Craig?
Yeah, there's on May 13th, we're hosting our Flowgrammer N8N meetup, promoting a bunch of automations and talking about business automations and AI. So definitely come and check that out. And I think it's May 15th is our startup investor drinks. And all that information will be over on torontostarts.com. And yeah, with Futurists in town, and Easy A is in town doing the largest cryptocurrency hackathon as well. They're partners of ours. And consensus. It's consensus now, not collision. Sorry, I keep saying that. So that'll be interesting week. There'll be 40,000, give or take, people in town for this conference. It'll be busy, and we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you help people get non-dilutive funding, John.
Yeah. If you need some non-dilutive funding right now, Can Export's open. It closes March 31st or May 31st. There's a new agri stream opening up and a bunch of things. So feel free, reach out to me, find me on LinkedIn. Reach out to me anytime.
And for everything else, go over to torontostarts.com, check out startupcoach.ca, or even flowgrammer.ca if you're looking at business automation and AI tools. And that's about it. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
Thanks, everyone.